trying to share my screen. How is it
Yep,
going
it,
from your end? Okay,
it looks
great.
great and you sound great.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, good. I do have my kids home from school today in the spirit of working from home, so they may arrive at any moment downstairs here. So apologies in advance if I have my 10-year-old and 8-year-old showing up. But thank you again, everyone, for inviting us to join this event today. I was listening into the first couple of sessions and really am so pleased to be included and that you all are allowing us to share on this topic of recreation in rural communities, how to connect economy and Main Street. And I am really tickled because I think following after Megan's presentation, hopefully this topic and this discussion will be really relevant because it really is all about the importance of community planning in the space of recreation. And so just really pleased to be here. Again, my name is Bertaina, and I work for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in an office called the Office of Community Revitalization. I'm based in Washington, D.C., and I manage the Recreation Economy for Rural Communities program, and that's part of what I'd like to talk with you all about today. So hopefully my slides are advancing here. So today we'd like to do a couple of things, and I am really pleased to be here with my colleague Ray Brown, who will be sharing as well. But really, we'd like to do a few things. We'd like to give an overview of the Recreation Economy for Rural Communities Planning Assistance Program. We'd also like to highlight an example of a community that's building its recreation economy and at the same time strengthening its Main Street. And that comes to us from the community of Thompson Falls, Montana. And so Ray will share a little bit more about his experience having been part of the Recreation Economy for Rural Communities planning process and what his community is doing on these issues. I'd also like to share just a few lessons that we've learned getting to work with communities across the country who are trying to boost outdoor recreation and revitalize their communities in doing so. And then if we have some time, have some questions and discussion with all of you. So what is the Recreation Economy for Rural Communities program? I'd like to share some background to start. So I mentioned that I'm with the Environmental Protection Agency. It's a federal agency in the US. And we partnered with the USDA Forest Service and also the Northern Border Regional Commission to jointly support the Recreation Economy for Rural Communities program. We started the program back in 2019, so this was pre-COVID days, recognizing that in our work across the country, we've seen a growing interest on the part of small towns and rural communities to really explore the role of outdoor recreation in their community stories. So I've been working in my office at EPA for about a dozen years or so and have gotten to work in communities all across the country on a range of issues. And so many of the community partners with whom we've been working had said that they could use some additional assistance, having conversations around the future of their communities and the role of outdoor recreation within that. So we developed this planning assistance program to help rural communities and small towns leverage growing interest in the outdoor recreation economy and industry to really revitalize their Main Streets. And so that's how the program was born. Through the program, we help the community convene to really articulate their vision for outdoor recreation and Main Street revitalization, their goals of what they want to accomplish as a community, and some actionable next steps that they can take as a community moving forward. So you'll see some pictures from our workshops here on this slide. Jasper, Alabama is one of them. It was one of our only in-person workshops that we held. This was the first week of March 2020. Some of you might remember that that was quite an important week. It was right before pretty much the world shut down with COVID. So most of our other workshops were done completely virtually, as you see here with Cambridge, New York. So with these workshops and with these planning efforts, we as federal agencies bring together funding partners. So whether that's federal agencies or state agencies, foundations, philanthropy, to help come to the table to listen to the community's vision and to help with implementation. So that's the approach. And in this, we're really trying to achieve a few things. We're trying to partner with communities to help them revitalize their Main Streets through outdoor recreation, to strengthen economic opportunities for residents and businesses alike, and also, of course, to get people outdoors, recognizing that outdoor recreation is such a key part of the sustainable use of natural resources, and of course, improves people's health, as we've already heard. So what do I mean by planning assistance? Unlike a lot of federal programs within the US, this is not a direct grant of funding to a community, but rather access to a planning assistance process. So the very thing that I think Megan alluded to in her talk, time and space for a community to have a conversation, to sit and actually reflect on what they want to accomplish as a community, what are some of the challenges and also the opportunities, and to make a plan for moving forward. So it's a 3-phase process. We work with the community to kind of assess the situation, understand the community. We pair each community partner with a team of consultants and federal agency staff who understand, what's going on in the community, who work with a local steering committee in each place to, articulate what are the goals that this community really wants to tackle with this assistance process, and what do we need to understand in terms of the people who need to come to the table to make it happen. We then gather either in person or virtually, depending on what COVID allows, to convene a conversation around these things. So the local players bring all of the residents, businesses, elected officials, any stakeholder who could affect the decisions being made or who is affected by them to the table. We bring the funding partners to the table, like federal agencies and state agencies, to hear the community's vision. And together, we all develop what we call the Community Action Plan. And this really documents the community's vision, goals, and actionable next steps for what they want to accomplish in the next 6 months, a year, or 2 years to make progress on on their goals. I like to refer to this as sort of catalytic planning rather than comprehensive planning, because it really is action-oriented toward the near term. We also work with the community to kind of implement the plan and make a plan for how to really make this vision a reality. So these are our community partners from our pilot round of the Recreation Economy for Rural Communities program. And of course, you see Thompson Falls, Montana was one of our 10 community partners in our pilot round. And I'm excited that Ray could join me today. Thank you, Ray, for being able to share a little bit more deeply about what we did together in Thompson Falls. What was the focus? What was his experience going through this process, but then also what they've accomplished moving forward. So Ray is going to do that shortly here. But we did work all over the country through this program. We worked in places like Gorham, New Hampshire, where the community was at the edge of the Androscoggin River and yet was pretty separated from this tremendous natural asset in their community. So we worked with Gorham to think about how they could connect their Main Street revitalization efforts more to the riverfront. We worked with Cambridge, New York, a community that had recently purchased a community forest that was right adjacent to their downtown. And the community wanted to think about how they could better connect this new natural asset to its downtown. We worked with Fryeburg, Maine, which is at the gateway of the White Mountain National Forest, and yet wasn't always a place where people stopped and stayed. So we worked with Fryeburg to come up with some strategies for how they might be even more of a gateway community. And we worked with Poultney, Vermont, a community that experienced a huge economic shock in the place where they live when Green Mountain College closed its doors in 2019. So we worked with the community to think through how outdoor recreation could be part of their economic diversification process moving forward. We worked with places like Giles County, Virginia, and the 5 small towns that are part of the county to really tap into the tremendous natural assets that they have in the county, to redirect visitors from overused assets and to highlight underutilized assets in the community, and to help build up the infrastructure that supports visitation. We worked with John Day, Oregon, a community that was transitioning from primarily a forestry, natural resources extraction industry base to one that really embraces outdoor recreation as part of their story. We worked with Jasper, Alabama to better connect assets like Walker County Lake, which you see here, with their burgeoning Main Street efforts, and to really get people active and outside and healthy. We worked in Grants, New Mexico to better connect the many, many natural assets within the community and have community buy-in and participation in using those assets. We worked with Glenwood Springs, Colorado, which is actually a community that has a pretty advanced recreation economy and is facing the challenges of creating living wage jobs and affordable housing, and also to make sure that the very resources that make Glenwood Springs special aren't overused, so that the community can continue to be an authentic and amazing place to live, work, and play. And of course, we worked in Thompson Falls, Montana, and that's what we'll hear more about just momentarily from Ray. So those were our pilot communities. We learned a ton. I'll share some of that learning shortly, but I think I would like to turn it over to Ray. Ray, I can advance the slides, but if you are there, I'd love for you to be able to share a bit about your experience with this program and your efforts there.
Well, I am here, and everybody can hear me okay, I would assume. Hello, my name is Ray Brown. I am the Executive Director for Sanders County Community Development. And let me see, first off, let me talk to you about the community. Thompson Falls is Very remote, incredibly rural. And we are perched right along Highway 200 in Sanders County. And Sanders County is the far western county of Montana, and we are adjacent to the Idaho Panhandle. We are a gateway to Glacier, which means a number of, we have a high level of traffic of folks coming through here for all sorts of different outdoor recreation purposes, but very rarely do they stop, right? Our economy has always historically been based on one thing or another. There for a long time, we were very timber-based, resource extraction of one source or another. We had different service base there for a little bit, but as soon as one would decline, the whole town would decline. Then something else would pick up and then it would decline. And so we had recognized some time ago that we really needed to diversify, the ecosystem if we wanted to go ahead and try to keep a balance. So my predecessor was actually a big proponent of, applying for this RERC because she was a huge outdoor, enthusiast. And if you look at our region, you'll see that we have, we're perched right on the Clark Fork River, super near the Flathead River, blue ribbon fishing with Thompson River, Bull River. We have 2 national forests, 1 wilderness designation, and then the Scotchman Peaks, which is a roadless area. So we have immediate near access to world-class outdoor rec. But Thompson Falls is the hidden gem of Montana. Now, I say that I'm a little biased. I'm from here. I went to high school here. I came back in 2004, and I have a passion for this place. I'm a pretty good cheerleader for the area. So this type of work was really exciting. So what we did here is, prior to me even coming on, so I had just started this position, and I had 4 days to onboard. And one of the things that was handed off to me was, here, you have this RERC. And I was like, great, what is it? And they're like, well, it's an opportunity to work on your outdoor recreation. Okay, so is it a grant? Well, no. Okay, well, do we get funding to do a project? Well, no. Okay. And I was so lost. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if Stephanie is really aware, but I darn near just, scrapped the whole project altogether because I did not understand the value of sitting around and talking about things. I've always historically been more of a doer. I see a problem, I fix the problem. And one of the first things that I had struggles with, and I think every rural community is going to have this, is that you have 10% of the population doing 90% of the work, right? And fortunately for the community, but unfortunately for me, that 10% was my predecessor who had just left town. And so the first part of this process where it says convene, I'm trying to establish relationships with these stakeholders, and they kind of know who I am, but they don't know what's going on. And so the first part of getting everybody, in the room, getting all the stakeholders identified and getting and going, it was a slow kind of going process. And because of that, we had to narrow down. We had these goals identified prior to us moving into it, but we narrowed down that focus into this asset inventory, physical connections, and the promotion. Now, the big deal with the asset inventory is really understanding what do we have here, because our big focus is that we just had Main Street designation given for our downtown. And we have an amazing brand new park that was established right at the edge of town. And so we wanted to be able to capture folks' attention right from the moment they are either getting off a plane or the moment they start driving on Highway 200. We want them to park their vehicle and pretty much direct them where they need to go from there. Once they park, we want to keep them on their feet and move them around. And we are fortunate enough to where we have a number of trail systems right surrounding our community that provide incredible views. So we figured that wayfinding would be one of our top priorities. And the last part is identifying our partners, resources, and opportunities to kind of like attack this as a regional approach, because we are a gateway. We are not the only community along the way that people are going to want to stop and see, because I guarantee you that if you were to stop and get out of your vehicle, you will want to spend a night. And we have the data, and actually, Steph, if you don't mind, flipping over next. We got some data that shows, where these folks are coming from, right? And we have these thoughts that, a lot of the folks that are coming to Glacier or coming through are like flying into Spokane or flying into Missoula, when in fact, a majority of our traffic is coming right from next door. Our number one visitor through Thompson Falls is going to be Spokane. Actually, it's Kalispell, right? If we really want to dive into it. And so that we had a whole kind of shift of focus that, okay, we no longer have to worry so much about, outer markets with our marketing, but we need to think about what are we providing for folks that are perhaps doing a day trip or just doing a quick weekend trip. And this helped us identify the areas that these folks already know about and are, perhaps stopping, or the areas that we perhaps needed to focus on a little bit more to enhance. Like our main feature is not Main Street. I mean, you saw the image that she has. We've got some new money coming in, and we've got some advancements, moving along. But the Main Street is not our feature, right? Wild Goose Landing is our primary boat put in. We have the mule pasture, which is a walking trail, which is ADA compliant. Thompson River, which is, like I said, it's a blue ribbon stream that is super popular, and it's a connecting avenue between here and Kalispell. The one I really want to highlight is this Island Park. That is just a block away from Main Street. It's a nice walking bridge across it, and it's an island with our dam system on either side of it. And it is just screaming for your picture. I mean, that is your hashtag moment, right? Our Montana moment. And it's stunning. And that is the place that if we get everybody to stop, park, go to Island Park, we've got them captured. And this data that they were able to provide for us just showed that we are already on the right track. Well, since this process, one of the primary things that I wanted to do was maintain these relationships, because when Steph is talking about bringing in the partners and all the funders, she's not kidding. And I will say 100% that was probably our biggest advantage in participating with this, is that because I was new, I don't know the answers. But one of my gifts is, knowing how to listen and knowing who the smart people are in the room and knowing, who to ask the questions of. And that's exactly what happened, is that we have all of these plans lined out. It's way too daunting for me. So I reached out to one of the partners that they brought to the table and said, hey, can you help? And with that contact, we sat down and we wrote out this rural business development grant, through the USDA, and was able to get a fully funded, 2-year job for a brand new position, which is going to be the director of outdoor recreation for Thompson Falls. And this new position is actually going to tackle, the wayfinding plan, identifying some of the other stakeholders, doing some outdoor education, all of these things that we identified as priorities. Now we have a point person to do it, because again, and I'm sure any other rural community has the same problem, is that you have individual groups tackling individual things. We have our Cabinet Ridge Riders doing, motorized use. We have our Thompson Falls Trail Committee. Like, everybody just has their interest, but there is no coordinating, entity that would handle all of this. And I sure as heck couldn't take on any more. So, and again, this not knowing who my resources were, not knowing even how to write a grant, not knowing how this whole thing would work, none of this would have been possible had we not gone through this RERC. And one of the things they like to highlight there is the work that we did with the high schoolers, because the day trip is, we learned that we want the itinerary. People like to be told where to go, right? Left to their own devices, RVs will be parked off the side of the road. People will camp wherever they can find a spot. Wayfinding is so very important, but where do you send them? And I always believe in the happy meal principle. If you keep the kids happy, the parents will be happy. And so I ended up doing a multi student, like 99 students, all at the junior high, all at the same time, a Mentimeter, to determine where are your favorite places to go. If you have visitors come in, where would you send them? And through that process, we were able to 2-day itinerary for a family of 4. And here's some drone footage, showing some coverage of those areas. It turned into a cool project. Highly recommend it. Okay, next. Yeah, there we go. What?
Yeah, I think this might be back to me. Thank you, Ray. And I know
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
short on time, so I won't belabor any of this, but I just wanted to share a bit of some of our big picture takeaways from not only Ray's great work, but other community efforts that we've really, seen through this effort. I think the main takeaways here are that, we've worked with Thompson Falls and 9 other communities through this program. We're seeing that rural communities are reinventing themselves. Outdoor recreation is a part of this. Place is important too. You have to think about your outdoor assets and your main street and your town for all the reasons that Ray mentioned, and also Megan and others have as well. It's community spark plugs like Ray that are making stuff happen in rural communities, and yet there's not always a lot of capacity to make this kind of thing happen. And so when you can match a community's vision to the resources to make it happen, and when you have that solid plan, you're almost unstoppable in terms of what you can do. So there's a lot that's working well. And I think being able to lift up the stories like Ray's and of Thompson Falls can really hopefully generate other communities to do the same. I will just say quickly, we're in the planning stages. We'll be soon announcing our next community partners through round 2 of the program. So I put the link there. These are my 2 favorite outdoor recreators, my 2 kids who I just wanted to put up a picture of them, but that's our favorite backyard national park, Rock Creek Park in DC. My contact information is there if anyone has any questions. And at this point, I think we're just really happy to answer any questions that any of you all have if we have time for doing so.